Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020, and guess what? I can officially vote as of today. Today is my 18th birthday, so I'm going to be voting in whichever local elections come up sometime soon, and then of course in the 2022 midterm election. So this is an exciting time. I think it's great, but besides that, we're going to actually take a look at two new polls from the state of Georgia, and I know what you're thinking. You probably just sighed after I told you it was my birthday, now that I'm talking to you about polls, but these polls were actually fairly accurate. In fact, some of them were spot on. I want to show you exactly how detailed these Survey USA A-rated pollsters from 538 actually were in the 2020 election. I made a video discussing why you can actually trust the 2020 election data, 2020 polling data that could be out. If I remember, it'll be at the top right if you want to watch that. But the polling data in Georgia this election was actually pretty accurate. So I actually put a little bit of confidence here. It could prove us devastatingly wrong. In January 5th, polls have shown us that over the past 4 years. But let's go ahead and take a look at exactly how accurate these pollsters were. So let's take a look at the presidential race. The last time they released a poll from Survey USA, and don't confuse it with SurveyMonkey, they are very different ones. And I'm saying that because I did for a very short period of time. I remember Survey USA actually did 2008 election data. I'm not going to get off on a tangent, but we'll talk about that some other time. But they actually gave Joe Biden the victory in the state of Georgia. Now, a number of polls did that, arguably, but it was one of the closer margins that we saw. We see just in this alone, Biden +6, Biden +7, and the overall consensus was Biden +1 or Biden +2. By the end of the day, Joe Biden was up 1.2% on election night. So looking at about a month out from election day, wow, that was a month ago, feels like 2 years ago, Joe Biden was actually the projected winner, according to Survey USA's actually pretty far out poll. And considering that this poll is around a month out as well, I just think that's pretty interesting. So looking at the Senate polls, why do I think that these were spot on? Well, arguably they were. They told us that Raphael Warnock would win 30% of the vote, Kelly Loeffler would win 26%, and Doug Collins would receive 20% of the vote. Look at the strikingly close election results. Look at the Senate special election. Raphael Warnock outperformed that poll by 3 points. Kelly Loeffler, right on the money, 26%. Doug Collins, right on the money, 20%. And in the regular election, they got that one right as well. They gave David Perdue the win by 3 points. If this was a regular election, he would have won by 2 points. It was pretty accurate, fairly accurate. And now they have new election data to show us. They have new polls to show us that if this doesn't prove that they were somehow accurate, I mean, they got Kelly Loeffler right on the money, Doug Collins right on the money. And the reason why Matt Lieberman is at 8%, if you're asking, is because he was the only other Democrat besides Tarver and Warnock that was on the poll. Nobody was really expecting the candidate who received 6% of the vote. I'm going to tell you her name right now, actually. Her name was Deborah Jackson. So she received 6.6%. But she was not considered on any of the polls. That could have just been a miscalculation. But these were accurate. And they got the Republican and Democratic numbers correct. They got the regular race correct. They got the presidential race correct. Obviously, the presidential race narrowed up. It swung a little bit to the right. But the Georgia Senate race swung a little bit to the left. So if we're worrying about Senate races now, the Republican Party doesn't have much leeway. But these polls are telling us something that is pretty unexpected. They're telling us that Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff are both going to win. Look at these new polls. Survey USA, same pollster, A-rated, 583 likely voters. In the runoff election, they give Raphael Warnock a 7-point lead over Kelly Loeffler. Jon Ossoff, a 2-point lead. This election has also shown us that the Republican Party traditionally wins a lot of these voters who say they aren't going to answer. But the fact that Warnock is already above 50% is starting to be a warning sign for the GOP. Because this poll right here wasn't exactly the most nonpartisan poll. The only other nonpartisan poll that was taken was Insider Advantage that showed, Insider Advantage was Democratic bias. I don't think there was a single poll. Remington Research was also very much right skewed, but still didn't show a deafening margin for Loeffler. But the overall consensus is that Loeffler's race is the narrowest of them all. I guess Survey USA is the only nonpartisan pollster that we have here. Surprisingly, I'd expect there to be more, but then again, public favorability polls probably isn't too high, even though they wouldn't do a poll on that one. But Raphael Warnock, look at his numbers. In every single one of these polls that we've seen, 46% at the lowest, 48%, 49%, 52%, compared to Jon Ossoff at 46%, 49%, and 50% at a max. So David Perdue also doing better than Kelly Loeffler, 45% for Loeffler, 48% for Perdue, 48% for Loeffler, 49% for Perdue, 49% for Loeffler, 50% for Perdue. So improvement for David Perdue's camp. They should be happy with these numbers because if it just skews a little bit to the right, David Perdue's the winner. But for Kelly Loeffler, she has a little bit more work to do. And because these polls were so, for whatever reason, accurate in this race, I think that the Democratic Party might actually be excited by those numbers. But also one thing is that it comes out of this poll. It tells us that 13% of people who aren't voting, 13% are not voting because they don't think that the election will be fair. They are telling these pollsters they are not voting in the runoff because they don't think the election is fair. In a race that was decided by 12,000 votes out of millions, out of 5 million votes, by 12,000, don't you think that 13% is really hurting? When you see Trump surrogate or Trump legal team surrogates going out there and saying, if Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue don't call on Brian Kemp to do whatever type of shenanigans they want to do through the state legislature, they are saying don't vote for them. And they are getting applause. They are getting cheers from these groups of people that, David Perdue couldn't win on the first ballot. Can you imagine what would happen if the Democrats maintain their energy and the Republican Party cannot? Now, I still think the Republican Party is favored to win both of these seats. I think the Republican Party is favored to win. But also, the data isn't on my side in this one. So you can choose who you trust. But also, I want to point out that we are around a month away. I will get a probably more accurate depiction of it closer on. But what we've seen historically is that the data doesn't exactly always match the election results, though Survey USA was strikingly or surprisingly close. Insanely close, actually. But the Democratic Party typically doesn't do well outside of presidential elections and midterm elections. And midterms only as recently as 2018. And I think that the Democratic Party really would need to drive up turnout in these runoff elections, and they're trying to do so. But the Republican Party has just been such a reliable voting base, especially in a state such as Georgia. It would make a lot more sense for us to see the Democrats up 7 and 2 points in a state that was, MAGA 100%. We're talking Kansas. We're talking Louisiana. We're talking Arkansas. Other areas around here. We're talking Alabama. We're not seeing that really in Georgia because this is a state, one of the few states in 2016 that swung to the left. One of many states that swung to the left as well in 2020. Didn't vote for Trump. So for the Republican Party to try to pander to Trump's base alone isn't going to be enough because Donald Trump did not win those 0.4% of David Perdue voters for a reason. Look at the difference. It was narrow, but it made all the difference. Perdue won 49.7% of the vote. Had Joe Biden, faced up against a Donald Trump type candidate, let's say it wasn't Donald Trump, let's say he was facing up against David Perdue, we would have seen a Republican victory in Georgia. And now that the Perdue and Loeffler column are not able to call on Brian Kemp to do anything, the results are going to be certified and the Electoral College will vote before this January 5th runoff actually occurs. I can guarantee it. This race is going to be a nail-biter. This race is going to be insanely close. And if the Democrats do win it, they will win back the United States Senate. On top of that, it will also be important to note that these voters, that 13%, would have made a difference. That 13% would have drastically changed the election results, would have drastically changed the party composition in the United States Senate. Now, this is one poll. Don't put all your faith in it. Don't put your faith in polls a lot. I have recently come to the conclusion that I'm not going to focus as much on it. You haven't seen me talk about a poll recently because we don't need to. And if you're looking at the Senate races, I'm only pointing out Survey USA because Georgia, the average was exceptionally accurate. Not only Survey USA, but Survey USA in particular was very accurate. A little bit further, a little bit closer to the election than they were, but their October 14th poll somehow proved the election results almost to a T. Getting Warnock, Collins, Loeffler, Perdue, Ossoff, Biden correct. That's a good track record. Not many pollsters can say the same. And if you're looking at the Senate map, I think the Democratic Party is cautiously optimistic. That is going to be two words that I will be using for the next 2 years. Cautiously optimistic. Why? Because that's how the Democrats need to remain. They have possibilities. They have ample possibilities of pickups in these two Senate races. Some possibilities for pickups in 2022. But I don't think that they should be expecting anything. They should be cautious. They should campaign super hard. They should do everything they can to win. And if they don't, well, then it's still a Republican wave year. The next 4 years should be Republican wave years. Governor elections, House elections, special elections, Senate elections. These next 4 years, I guess up until the presidential election, should be times for the Republican Party to do well. But the Democratic Party also has built some coalitions in states that they previously didn't have. Arizona, Georgia, solidifying their coalitions in Virginia, Colorado, New Hampshire, Minnesota, winning back the presidential states of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, states that were won with the Republicans and Donald Trump in 2016 that are up for re-election in 2022. So Democrats should be cautiously optimistic, and this poll is only adding to that. I don't think Loeffler or Ossoff, or Warnock or Ossoff are going to win by 7 and 2 points respectively. I think if it's a win, it's going to be a win by less than 1% for either candidate. But it could come down to an exceptionally close margin. And these voters that are saying they potentially would boycott the race, that aren't going to vote in a, quote, rigged election, could very well make the difference, which is why I think Democrats should be cautiously optimistic. Personally, I think the Republican Party still has a very good chance at both of these Senate races. I think they have a better chance than the Democratic Party. But don't count out Ossoff and don't count out Warnock just yet. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2022 Senate election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.